Hey everyone, thanks again for coming back to another episode of Built By. This week, we're featuring Megan McGuire, who is the Sales and Marketing Director at All Weather Seal, West Michigan. And there's a few other positions you have. Consultant at Tony Hoty Consulting, and you own your own business.
Yeah, I have my own little consulting deal called Megan Knows Marketing, and then I partner with Tony Hoty on anything home improvement related. So
perfect. Awesome. Cool. So glad to have you on. There's a lot of good stuff that I want to dive into. But first, I really want to get to know you and your beginnings into the home improvement industry. I think we had a chat yesterday, and you mentioned you've had 16 years in the industry. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear how you got into it and how you got started in marketing, or was it sales that you got started in?
Sure. Yeah, great questions. My first marketing job ever was when I was 17 years old, and I talked my way into a position where we would set appointments for vacation memberships. Mm-hmm. So we would call people who entered to win a truck, an RV, a boat, something of that nature at a mall or some sort of retail location. And we would convert them into sales appointments for our tour guides. So when I was 17, that was my first marketing job. And once I went there, most teenagers, I was pretty done with customer service or fast food once I saw the kind of money I could make, just talking to people on the phone. So that was the beginning. And then I ended up at my first home improvement company when I was 18. Worked there for several months, and then they went out of business and bounced my paychecks. So It was a very interesting experience. They say you win or you win or you learn. And I definitely learned that you have to make sure that the company you're working for is on solid ground, right? So, and then, I went in and did a few other things. I did some dispatching and some work with a restoration company. And then I wound up at a large retail operation in the Kalamazoo area. And we were doing windows, siding, roofing, bathrooms, things of that nature. So I was at that company for about 3 years, and I worked my way up from call center confirmation person to director of marketing in about 2 years. So I came in and I basically revamped their whole call center in terms of lead generation, and then took on a very successful Sam's Club program where I had 6 Sam's Club stores where we were generating leads, built a show and event program, and then that's where I met Tony Hoty and built a canvassing program for that company. So I departed from that company in 2010, or the end of 2009, I should say. And then I wound up here at All Weather Seal in 2010. So that's kind of my journey through the ranks. At that company in Kalamazoo, I also learned a lot about 10-step selling process. Did a fair amount of ride-alongs and did some window demos and things of that nature. So I was also involved in training and working with the sales team at that company. So, and that's now kind of what I do at All Weather. So I do a little bit of everything, but director of sales and marketing means I'm working with the lead generation managers as well as the sales team. So.
Gotcha. Very cool. That's an interesting progression from you said you started in kind of the call center role. And then shifted over to marketing, and you learned sales tips along the way. So I'd love to hear, what did you learn that call center role that you were able to apply in marketing and sales? Was it talking to customers? I'm sure you're finding out a bunch of stuff that you can apply there.
Absolutely. I mean, in any sort of lead generation marketing in the home improvement industry or otherwise, the approach may change, but the process and the system stays the same. So whether it's on the phone, whether if it's at a show or an event or a canvassing situation at someone's front door, all of those processes are fairly similar other than the way that you engage the customer in the beginning. So what I learned very early on is that system reigns supreme. And so in a call center, if you don't have a system and you don't have scripts and you don't have a plotted out plan in terms of how your call center is going to field leads and operate and develop new leads, you're basically left with a bunch of people sitting at desks winging it, which I think we all know that winging it is not the most effective way to scale a company. So that would be my biggest takeaway is you have to have a process and a system.
Interesting. I know we were chatting a little bit yesterday, and you mentioned that you helped grow your business from 1.7 million to 10 million. I'm sure in the beginning when you move to that marketing role, and this is something that a lot of marketers face, is limited budget and you have to
Mhm.
get buy-in. So facing those two problems, I'm sure you had the same situation. How, with the budget that you had, how did you approach, okay, this is how we're going to promote our company?
Sure. Those are excellent questions, and definitely something anyone new in the business should consider, to take something from for sure. So when I got here to All Weather Seal, we really operated off of previous customer referral, inbound leads here and there, but we really didn't have any organized marketing set up. When I got here, you had a couple of marketers. They do a couple home shows a year. They go out and knock doors, 3-4 hours a night, a couple nights a week, but there really wasn't an actual lead generation machine and program. And what most owners, especially when they're at a smaller level, will find a lot of value in is those outbound lead generation programs. And the reason being is because you can pay out money today and you can have leads tomorrow. So that's really the idea behind the outbound leads, is you're really creating your own destiny. So working with the limited budget, I was actually really blessed when I got here. The owner of my company didn't believe heavily in advertising that I call post and pray. Post a billboard and pray that the phone rings, send a postcard in the mail and pray that the phone rings, radio, TV, all things that all things that work, and they work well, but usually those are going to be things that cost you a little bit more in the budget in order to get rolling. So what happens is we're forced to find a way to get leads that we can pay out money today and have leads tomorrow. So canvassing is very much that way. We could, start the day with no leads on for tomorrow. And if we have a canvas team in a neighborhood, they may end up with, 10 next days by the end of the shift. So the attractive part to new businesses is it's very low cost. I mean, all you have is payroll and gas, essentially. But that also goes back to, the other question you had, which was about buy-in. I don't know if you know this or not, but knocking doors isn't the most heavily coveted position ever in marketing or sales.
Yeah.
Now, I put my career on the fact that I'm willing to do it. Nobody else is going to, so that's fine by me. But getting the buy-in of your employees is so incredibly important in the very beginning. And one of the ways that I do that specifically is I help them understand that they are selling appointments. And I also help them understand what kind of company we are. And I also educate them on what other type of companies are out there. So, by the end of our training, our lead generators are so bought into the fact that we're going to take care of the customer that they know that they're helping. And so it's a lot easier to do a job with a lot of rejection when you feel like you are a problem solver and you are able to help a consumer. Because the last thing that we would ever want is to talk to a homeowner. We aren't able to write the lead for whatever reason, and they end up getting taken advantage of by one of the, cheap Charlies in our industry, or, Bubba's Butt Crack Roofing Company. So, it's important for our marketers to understand that they are helping and they are the wheels of the economy. If nothing can move until it's sold, and nothing can be sold until we give them an estimate, and we can't give them an estimate if we don't have leads. So those outbound lead sources really help support bringing in cash flow today, while you may then work on, as you get larger, you may work on other strategies like SEO, and some other things that are more of a branding situation. But we can't pay for branding if we don't have cash flow today. So the outbound marketed leads really help to balance that out, because it can be so low cost if done the right way. And of course, the buy-in is a big part of that. The amount of rejection our people are going to face, whether it's leads, whether it's sales in the house, the amount of rejection that we get from homeowners is going to be substantial. So, your marketers have to be on a bigger mission than just their paycheck today. And if they aren't, we end up in a position where their excitement about their job doesn't translate over to the homeowner, and we need it to. So.
Yeah, that's huge. You mentioned the balance of inbound and outbound, and we had a conversation about this yesterday. I thought it was really interesting. A lot of companies make the mistake of putting all of their eggs in one basket. And we started talking about, lead aggregators, HomeAdvisor, things like that. And you had some pretty strong feelings on a direction there, if I remember correctly. But it's interesting. The mistake that a lot of home improvement companies are making are they're relying too heavily on that lead aggregator. And you're since you got into marketing, this was you didn't even touch them until what, October of 2019, last
Yeah,
year.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, lead aggregators, and it's not just lead aggregators. What I should say is that it's important to have a healthy lead mix of inbound and outbound. Now, that includes our lead aggregators, our HomeAdvisors, Angie's List, Modernize, all these new ones that pop up every other day.
Mhm.
Um, but the reality is that any company that pigeonholes themselves into being a one-trick pony, we leave ourselves very vulnerable. We leave ourselves vulnerable to ups and downs in the economy. We leave ourselves vulnerable to, what if shows get canceled because of COVID-19, And so there has to be a backup plan. If you only rely on one lead source and, it goes away tomorrow, and those lead aggregators, there's a good chance of that. A lot of them get many class action lawsuits right now against lead aggregators for, screwing contractors over. And yes, I dealt with HomeAdvisor when they were Service Magic. I've dealt with, homeimprovementleads.com, all of these different lead aggregators that go back, 10 years even. And I had never, ever found that I could find better leads than I could train people in my call center to create.
Mhm.
So I didn't even consider them an option. And I felt that they were, definitely, because some of the bigger ones know that these smaller contractors need them, they take advantage of that to some degree. And so
Right.
it's just important to have that healthy lead mix of different sources so that, and you can just take a look at, the coronavirus right now is a great example. I have clients in consulting that are, losing their mind. I have, friends in the industry who have shut their doors because they don't know how to get leads. And it's just very sad to me. I mean, and, of all the companies, we get 40% of our leads from shows and events. So that was pretty much gone in blink of an eye. So if we didn't already have other lead generation programs diversified and going, we wouldn't know, what to do and how we are going to get leads for the sales team. So luckily, we just dumped extra money into other areas that we knew were increasing as a result of COVID. And we've had plenty of leads. I haven't even used, some of the lead aggregators. I haven't used any of them in 3 or 4 weeks. We've been overrun with leads. So it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned, when COVID hit, and you meant 40% of your leads were from events and really in-person type of canvassing and things like that.
Sure. Yep.
When coronavirus hit, and obviously everything was being canceled, and you mentioned that you started pushing your marketing dollars into areas that you were seeing growth. And one of those you mentioned yesterday was television. So I'd love to hear how you came to that conclusion. I'm guessing on data and statistics that you were seeing, and the simple concept of be where your buyer's eyes are, really.
Sure. Yeah. And that's really what it boils down to. All marketing and advertising and lead generation, all what it boils down to is one thing, and that's attention. Where is the attention right now? And so the attention in March and April almost always is at shows and events, big home and garden shows in our industry and in our market. That's the go time for the home improvement world. So, when you just kind of get that yanked out from under you, you have to have another plan. So we ended up looking at where is the attention now. So first thing to think about is there are more people at home working or at home laid off than ever before. And so in that area, we have to look at, okay, how can we capitalize on people actually having free time and actually being home, even if they don't necessarily want us in their home? How can we capitalize on that? So TV was a big one because everyone's watching the news for the latest updates. Social media is another one. We've ran a very successful sweepstakes campaign previously, and we've done some of that since this entire thing happened. And then really diving into some pay-per-click, some pay-per-performance, ads with print media. But really just because people are home, people are in their mailbox looking for a stimulus check. So direct mail is getting a response that it's never seen before. So I shouldn't say never have seen, but haven't seen since it came out, like email in the first year. So
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Interesting. I want to circle back to obviously your beginnings at a call center, and you're getting all these inbound leads, and things are looking up. What it comes down to is really that speed to lead that you can get to a lead, and your call center is really dependent on that. And I think you mentioned yesterday, like you're seeing under 60 seconds, your call center are getting the leads, and that's an amazing time. Well, how do you coach your call center? And is it process? Is it rinse and repeat, like trainings every month? I'd love to hear how you're able to shift that mindset to them, to sell appointments and not sell products.
Sure. Yeah, no, great questions again. Yeah, so essentially, yes, yes, and yes to all the things that you suggested. You have to have a process. But really, it goes back to the same thing you asked in the beginning, which was the buy-in. Now, with our call center, the reason we convert them at such a high rate and the reason that we have such a short response time is because our callers are expected to make outbound calls and field inbound calls. So imagine this, you're a call center person and you're calling 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old leads all day long. And then the phone rings and it's HomeAdvisor with someone that wants a quote on Windows. Can you imagine how quick they want to get to that lead?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because all day they talk to people that didn't really want to talk to them. So, the reality is that the reason we convert inbound so well is because we do outbound.
Mm-hmm.
They are getting their teeth kicked in more often than they aren't. And then when you give them, some sort of a fresher type lead, everyone's excited as heck when it comes in the front door. So,
yeah.
And how do we do that? Yeah, trainings, coachings. I mean, we script process. If we actually have what we call a hot hand report. And what that means is we ran all of our call center lead generators numbers for the last week. And whoever has the best numbers is first in line to field the inbound leads.
Oh, wow.
And it goes down in a round robin after we, get past a certain point. If everyone's on the phone, it'll ring to the manager's desk. But the first thing we do is we hand that off to our most productive call center person. Because why wouldn't you? I mean, it's just like a sales team. If I have a guy who's got a, $4,000 and $5,000 NSLI or slug rate, he's going to be getting, the leads, and we're going to make sure we keep him fed. And it's the same thing with the call center. Those people that do such a great job on those outbound leads, I mean, the chances of them not converting an inbound are slim and none. So that's how we are able to, keep that, we're able to keep the lead speed to lead really up there at a high number. I mean, people want to get to these leads as quick as possible. So same thing with TV. I mean, when the phone starts ringing, I mean, it's a big emergency for us to get on the lead immediately. And that's through the buy-in that you were talking about. When we started fielding inbound TV leads, we started fielding inbound lead aggregators. I had a meeting with the entire call center, and I just explained to them about these leads and how we're all going to grow and we're all going to make more money as a company the faster we can convert them. And I threw out some statistics. If you wait over 2 minutes on a lead, the chances of you getting a hold of it goes down by X amount. And it's so interesting because when you actually explain to the callers why it's in their best interest to convert these leads as soon as possible, then they do it. It's the same as a customer. People are only going to do what's in their own best interest. So it's important for us to help our callers understand the crucial role they play in fielding those inbound leads that are so valuable to us.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And talking about stats, I saw one today that's like you're 21 times more likely to close a lead if you get to them within a minute.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not higher. I'm surprised it's not higher than that, honestly.
Yeah, it's amazing. And speed to lead is one thing that the industry is really starting to come around to, and it's really interesting to hear how you're creating that like sense of urgency within your own call center by putting a little healthy competition in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which every good sales team, I feel like, there's some level of competition that drives everyone to be better. And
agreed.
Rising tide lifts all boats.
Absolutely. And one more thing on the lead aggregators I wanted to mention too, with the consulting side of my business that I do, often I'll go into these companies and I'll find out where their leads are coming from currently. And a lot of times it's HomeAdvisor, and then they complain about HomeAdvisor and they say HomeAdvisor stinks, or they have this opinion. And my first question is, while that could be the case and that could be true, is it possible we're not handling the lead properly? Right. If I mystery shop you and the phone rings 18 times and sends me to a voicemail, and I'm somebody from HomeAdvisor calling, there's an issue. Or HomeAdvisor will send you a text or an email or a call link, all of the above, when a lead comes in. So often we will say this or that lead source doesn't work. They all can work. It's just what cost? And the other part is are you doing your part as a company to field it properly? Because if you're not getting to HomeAdvisor leads in the first 5 minutes, you shouldn't even do it.
Right.
If you get to them, I mean, it's a waste of money because you're not going to get in front of enough of them. But it's one of those things that you kind of have to go in and solve for X. If you're not getting your return on any lead source, I mean, you have to look at, is our process good? And if it is, and it's working, then, why aren't we producing at the level that we're, our targets and goals are at? So.
Yeah, that's interesting. The coaching aspect of your call center, are you sitting down like monthly and having kind of, monthly sit downs and chatting about some of the conversations they had? Is it conversation visibility? Is it more just looking at the numbers? I'd love to hear your process there.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. We have weekly one-on-ones with each calling person in our call center and each marketer in general. What that means is the manager of that department, which I manage the managers essentially, and they manage their people. But we have a process put in place called plan and review, which means we're going to review your numbers from last week. We're going to look at how many calls you made, how many calls you made contact with, how many calls didn't answer, how many calls you set, how many calls you resulted as callback because you couldn't close the appointment on the first call. And then we look at once the ones they have set get on the board, what happened to them? Did they all cancel because they felt pressured? Did they all convert into demos and sales because they were set up well and properly? Do we have a fall off on issue rate because these people aren't answering the confirmation call? There's several different metrics that we look at in order to change what's being said on the front end to produce the results we want. So we'll sit down with a one-on-one in a plan and review session is what we call it. And we look at those numbers. And then we talk to them about how they feel like it's going. We do a lot of question-based reviews. And what I mean by that is if I just go in guns a-blazing and say, hey, look, little Sally, you aren't making any calls. Looks like you're talking to your neighbor a little too much. That's just me telling them what to do. What's more important to me is to show them how they can build their own paycheck and make pretty much whatever kind of money they want to if they just set enough appointments and they set them the right way so the metrics convert. So I will ask them, how do you think it's going? Because it's just like a customer. It doesn't matter really what I think. What matters is what they think.
Yeah.
Because what they think is what's influencing their behavior daily and their work ethic. So, we sit down, we ask, how do you think it's going? What do you think are your strong points? What do you think are some of your challenges or your weaknesses? And then most importantly, what can I do or what can we do to help you get to the numbers that you need to get to? And so we ask a lot of questions and we're able to get to a lot. I think our employees really see it as valuable. And the reason being is because we don't just go in there and attack. Our job is to go in there and problem solve and help them become the best marketer or lead generator that they can be. They have a certain amount of appointments that they have to sell every single day. So
that's amazing. That's such a really interesting and awesome coaching technique. I mean, you're building, you're having them build themselves up, right?
Correct. I mean, and the reality is that people are much more receptive to their own ideas than yours.
All right. Yeah. Well, awesome. That's really all the questions I had, Megan. I really appreciate you coming on. I think this was absolutely tremendous, just the value and content here. And I'll definitely be sure to drop your links. I'm sure plenty of companies would be interested in hearing more on the consulting side of things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we just rescheduled. There's a couple seminars I'm speaking at coming up. We just rescheduled LeadCon 2020, which is Tony Hoty's lead generation seminar. It was supposed to be in June. We're moving it back to an undisclosed time so far, but that will be late fall. And so that will be coming up, as well as Pro Remodelers Extreme Lead Generation Summit, which I'll be presenting at in November in Texas. So there's a couple places people can see me, but other than that, the Tony Hoty website, if they did want any information on consulting, feel free to fill that out and they'll get that over to me. So
yeah, awesome. Sounds good. Well, thanks so much, Megan, again, and have a great rest of the week.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Matt.